Well, hi and welcome. It's my pleasure and now to do a short interview with Jeremy Webster, who's the Secretary of the Board of ICMCI. It's an office that he's held for a while, and we're going to ask him about his activities and do a video summary of his report in the annual report. So, Jeremy, over to you. Perhaps can you tell us a bit about the achievements or the activities of the role of Secretary in the past year?
Yeah, thanks, Dwight, and hello, everyone. Yeah, the Secretary's role is a bit of a funny one, really. It's almost all in the background. My role is to make sure that the organisation follows its own rules, really, and to draw people's attention to whether or not our rules could do with changing or amending from time to time. And I've been doing a bit of that this year. You'll see from the report that I've submitted that we've realised that because of our remote working and our annual meeting, which is now the second year where we're doing it in this remote fashion, we really need to make sure that our rules are coherent with this remote method, because it's actually been very successful, which is really, really positive. Last year's meeting worked very well. We had a very large attendance, and hopefully we'll have the same this year. And I'm a firm believer in our democratic principles that we want to make it as easy as possible for delegates to participate in our decision making. And the main thing then that I've been doing this year, and you'll see we have a resolution to this effect, is to suggest some modifications to the bylaws to allow everybody to vote and to participate remotely. So that, I would say, Dwight, is the main thing this year. It's been a funny old year, of course, hasn't it, for everyone in working remotely. So there we go.
Okay, thank you. My second question was, what are some of the main projects that you have underway? So you may have covered that off already.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the thing about looking at the bylaws. It's interesting that nobody ever reads them. Maybe I can say that with tongue in cheek, that these are things that we have to have. That are our rules, the way that we govern ourselves. And I hope that delegates will have taken time to have a look at these things, because in there it gives everybody the right and wrong way to do things, what can and can't be done. And that's been one of the main projects this year, is to just have a quick tidy up, really, of these bylaws, to make some of the terminology consistent, because some of the terms seem to be a bit variable, to improve things like the notice periods for resolutions, which may seem very arcane to most people, but actually when you read through, you find that there are several different notice periods according to the type of resolution, and we just want to make it simple. So we've proposed some changes in that respect. So those are the kind of things that I've been involved with this year.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, bylaws are bylaws, aren't they? They're not most interesting reading, but they're really important to the operations of the organization. In terms of challenges, what do you see as the challenges for the Office of the Secretary, and some of the things you will be looking at for the future?
Well, I think we've all been challenged by the enforced move to remote working, which took place last year, of course, because of COVID, and still hasn't lifted. And that, in some ways, is positive, that move, because it's much more efficient. If you're interested in sustainability, which I am, I teach it, interestingly enough, at university. Actually not getting on planes and traveling around the world can only be beneficial if we can achieve the same standard of governance and debate that we have hitherto by working remotely. Then actually, I think that's a really good thing. The issue is that we do get a bit of pushback on that. And I understand from delegates and from fellow board members that actually miss the face-to-face working that we have been doing without for the last couple of years. So I think, as a challenge, I think what I'm trying to do is find the right balance here between efficiency and our environmental and green credentials, and being able to have face-to-face interaction and networking that, as consultants, we thrive on. And that's why we're proposing for next year, in the earnest hope and keeping our fingers crossed that there won't be another global pandemic and that by this time next year it will all be okay to travel distances, to have a mixed format for our annual meeting where the conference goes ahead as we've done previously, but the actual the legal annual meeting part is done remotely to allow maximum participation of delegates. So we're looking forward to announcing the opening of bids for this event, and hopefully we'll get lots of people who want to, lots of countries that would really like to put on a conference and run the virtual annual meeting so that we can do this together.
Wow, that sounds interesting. Actually, I'm looking forward to that. I think this combination of people in person, which does have a lot of benefits that you can't get over a format like this, together with the hybrid to allow people from different parts of the world to join. I think that's great. I'm looking forward to seeing how that one plays out. In terms of the future, one of the resolutions coming up has to do with the subject you raised earlier around bylaws and sort of the strategic orientation of ICMCI and the enabling of the bylaws or not. Could you say a few words about that for delegates?
Yeah, I think, I mean, ICMCI is a unique organization. We're the only entity in the world that has global coverage of management consultancy around the world. But, you know, we have to face up to the fact that we know that not all of our countries have, not all the countries in the world are members. And for those that are, not all of them have very high membership. And yet the management consulting industry is huge. There are many hundreds of thousands of people around the world that work in this sector. And one of the things that we've been talking about in the board, which I've mentioned in my report and is the reason that we have a resolution to this effect, is that the board needs to engage more with global stakeholders, some of which we engage with already, such as the World Bank, EBRD, people like that, the United Nations, but other global stakeholders, such as global consulting firms and people like this. We're in a position where we have individual countries, some of whom do that very well, others of whom don't have the resources to approach these organizations locally. And one of the things that, as a strategy, the board has agreed to do is to consider looking at how it can better engage with global stakeholders and to develop next year a plan to do this. And we've put a resolution in the annual meeting this year to, in effect, to announce that that's happening and get delegate input and support for doing that. What we know very well is that the IMCs are the lifeblood of ICMCI, and it's really important to all of us that that is a core building block of our organization. But they're not the only stakeholder in the world of management consultancy, and we want to examine how and if we can engage better with other global stakeholders, and look forward, therefore, to coming back next year to next year's annual meeting in person, we hope, as we've said before, to present some options that the organization can follow in that respect.
Well, thank you, that's great. Any closing comments?
Well, not really. Just to say that, you know, as you pointed out at the very beginning, I've been secretary for a little while now. Coming up this year is my last year in my stint as a director. So I'm looking forward to handing over that responsibility this time next year to somebody else, and hopefully leaving the organisation in a good state from a governance point of view. So that'd be my closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for all your good work. So I do commend you to the annual report, which is available to all delegates, where you can read Jeremy's comments in greater detail. And if you have any questions, feel free to send in by email to the Secretariat so we can prepare, or be ready to ask them at the annual meeting, where you can ask questions of any of the directors. So thank you very much, Jeremy, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much, Dwight.
Thank you.